So I will start with the statement. This meeting will be recorded for the minutes and will be broadcast online later on. If you're not happy with that, leave the meeting now. Thank you. So we have quite a long programme. So the first item on the programme is to elect a chairman for the authority until the next annual meeting. We have had 3 nominations: Councillor Wynne Hughes, Mr. Tim Jones, and Councillor Ivor. So we have contacted them all in advance, and the 3 now have an opportunity to address you for up to 5 minutes. And then you've all had the details through email. So following the 3rd address, you can then contact me through email with your vote. It's a secret vote. And then we will then suspend the meeting and then we'll resume after a few minutes. So I'll take it in alphabetical order. Can I start, therefore, with Councillor Wynne Hughes? Thank you, Owen, and good morning to everybody. First of all, can I thank you for being nominated for the important role as Chair of the Park Authority for the coming year. And as some of you know already, I have been Vice Chairman of the Authority for the last 2 years, and I have greatly enjoyed it. And the experience has been an eye-opener for me. And because of this, I agreed for my name to go forward for the chair of the authority so that I can continue to promote the work of the park and also to create history by being the first woman to be chairman of the authority. I was born and brought up on the family farm, and I still live here up in Cwmbrachan in Llanbedr, and the family, the husband and my son and I farm at the moment, and we're in the centre of the park. So I have lived within the park throughout my whole life, and I know what the work that farmers have to do with the environment, and agriculture is very important to me and also to us as a family. Keeping the environment and getting grants from Glastier at the moment, that's a great help to us as farmers. Over the years, since I've been a member of the authority, I have seen how the officers work, particularly in planning and the work that they have with some planning applications and the policies that they have to follow, and new ones come in from the government very often, which makes the planning officers' work difficult. What is discouraging because of this is young people leaving the countryside because of lack of jobs and also being unable to build a house or convert a barn because of policies that the authorities have to follow. At the moment, I am the chairman of the Eryri Forum, and so I hear members of opinions of members of various agencies, and at the moment the hot potato is the tourist tax, which is an interesting idea, and I will be saying more about this in the months to come. If I'm elected as chair of the authority, I will promise you that I'll do my best for the authority and create history once again. Thank you very much. Thank you, Wynne. So Wynne is the second is Mr. Tim Jones. Thank you very much and good morning to all of you, and thank you for the nomination as to the individual. I have over 30 years of experience working with national parks in Wales since my first job as a warden Brecon Beacons in 1988. I believe strongly in the parks mission, and it's important for them to fulfill their duties to assure the benefit of people who live here, as well as those who visit. The last few years have been challenging, and I know the coming year is likely to be not likely much better. Certainly, I have experience, and I have experience working with members and authorities of the authority steering us through this time. I'm experienced as a chairman and have worked nearly 20 years as the director of voluntary activities in the North Wales. I have chaired many meetings, some very challenging, including chairing hybrid meetings successfully over the last 2 years. I've very experience in dealing with stakeholders in challenging situations and talking with the media bilingually at times like this. I have a long experience of working with civil service and ministers in Welsh Government, and supports director of the organisation by the society. And since I was appointed, I hope that people have seen that I have contributed extensively to the work of the authority. As I said, the next year will not be easier with pressures in financial and climate challenges, and also the need to ensure those who visit and the Welsh language and culture will be preserved. If chairman, I can confirm that and deliver this successfully for the National Park. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tim. Councillor Ivo Glyn Lloyd to finish the talk, the addresses. Thank you very much. Good morning. Yes, I would like to thank again for the nomination. It's a great privilege to be nominated as chair, but since I sit on the chair of Conwy Council at the moment, it's also to be chair. It would be difficult for me to be chair of the park as well. So I'd like to withdraw my nomination. I'm sure there'll be time in the future where I'll have more time and I'll be able to put more into the post. So I would like to withdraw. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So the choice, a simple choice between two candidates for the chair of the authority. You have all had my email details. So you're supposed to have had an email from Owen. Is anybody who hasn't had my email? Can I please? Can I have the address, please? And we'll send that through, and to me, please, too, and me, please, and me, please. Okay. And when, if you send it to everybody, it's easier, I think. No, nobody can read. It's in the letter that you had. I'll send it again. I'll send Ewan's email address to everyone. So do you want me to put it through email or chat? I think it's better to go through email. Does everybody have their links to their email at the moment? I don't have a link to the park, my park email, only to Councillor June Jones. Can you send it to that? So is everybody's happy? And I'm the same. But please send it to my Gwynedd email and to me. So I have the link with the park. Whose hand is up to. Yes, can you send it to my county council email? I don't have the contact for the park email properly yet. Louise Hughes's hand is up too. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to ask a question. It's a bit embarrassing, really. Propriety, or do I have to declare an interest? Anwen's my sister-in-law, so I don't know where that puts me. Can anybody answer that for me? I mean, I would like to vote for her, but she's my sister-in-law, so people think, oh.
For clarification, you're my husband's sister-in-law, not mine. Sorry.
Well, we're both married to brothers, so goodness me. She said that publicly. Wow.
Mi gach chi bleidleisio fe fyna,
You can vote however you like. It's not a matter that's going to benefit you personally.
On there, I said, there's a matter of propriety, and with my sister on, and she said, actually, I'm your husband's sister-in-law. Yeah.
Has everybody received the email now? Did you send one to me? Sorry, this is Elwyn. Elved, I'm looking for it. I find it now. I'm going to switch off the camera now, and we'll stop the recording for this period. There we are. I'll mute and I'll look at my emails. So when everyone's supposed to be back now. Can we come back at 20 past? So thank you very much. I have received the votes and I can confirm that Wynne has been elected to the chair. So welcome to the chair, Wynne. Thank you very much, and thank you to everyone for voting. So we'll move on to nominate a vice chairman. Yes, Yuan, and then give it over to you as any names come to hand. Thank you very much. Yes, we have had 3 names for the vice chair. It is Mr. Tim Jones, Councillor Edgar Wynne Owen, and Councillor Elved Powell Roberts. So once again, in the alphabetical order, I will ask each candidate to give a talk for up to 5 minutes and start with Mr. Tim Jones. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the nomination. I'm not going to go through what I said before because you've all heard it, and I think that that what I said is relevant to standing in the for the vice chair. So I very much hope you'll vote for me, and thank you very much. Thank you very much. So on, therefore, to Councillor Edgar Wynne Owen. Good morning to all of you, and welcome to the new members. I haven't prepared anything. I was born in Caethro. I live in Waenfawr. I represent Betws-Garmon and Rhyd, which of course are within the park. And many people have said, oh, you've retired from Gwynedd Council. No, I haven't retired. I've given up my paid work in order to be a councillor. And so I have been on Gwynedd Council now for 6 years. And in those 6 years, I have been vice chair of the council, and I've been chair of the council for 2 years. The pandemic period too. I have chaired a lot of different things. I chair of Hwb Caernarfon at the moment, which spends over 100,000 a year in attracting people to Caernarfon, and also the town itself and attracting grants for that. I'm vice chair. I decided that I'd have a chance now before becoming chairman to going to every meeting of the Gwynedd Council, and I went to every meeting to see how the council worked, and I learned in a year how it worked, what perhaps it would take 4 or 5 years to somebody who hadn't been chair to, and that's and so when I became chair, I was asked, and I decided, well, it's best to be vice chairman first if I'm selected, and then do their job from there. And also, I wanted to be part of something historical, that a woman will be first chair of the Snowdonia National Park. I have been on the park for some years now, and I have learned a lot by listening to other people such as Owen Wynne when he was chair, Ethan Lloyd, and also Brian Angel. And that's why I'm trying for the vice chair, and I'm thinking of going for the chair in 2 or 3 years. If I'm still here and if I'm selected by you. So there are concerns. My favorite subject is financial, and I want to learn more about how the park works. I also have Trowerin comes to me now, selling this land to factories from England, and we have to push for this, as others have said. And as I learned about the park, I'm looking forward to this term, whether I'm vice chair or not. In working with you, I can't promise anything because I know it's going to be difficult from next year onwards financially on the council and on the park. Money will be tight, and I'm sure that we'll have to work a lot to save money in the future. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And on to Councillor Elfed Powell Roberts. Well, first of all, can I congratulate Anne Wynne on being elected as chair of the park, the first woman to do so, and creating history. So I've just been, thank you for being nominated as vice chair, and I hope I'm pleased that people trust me to try for the post of vice chairman of the National Park, the best park throughout Wales. I'm Elfed Roberts, and I represent Trawsfynydd and Twrog in the shadow of Snowdonia. It's going to be a challenging period in the future. It's crucial that we are a live, living park for the businesses and the agriculture within the park, and also also tourism is crucial for the future. So I'm not going to say a lot. Everybody knows me quite well, and certainly I'll do my best. And thank you very much for the nomination. And on that, I am going to leave it there. Madam Chair, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Elfed. So the same system again, Ewan. We'll follow the same. So vote for one of the three. The system's slightly different because there's three. So if more than half the people vote for one of them, then that's a successful person. If we're closer, then we will go for the one with the lowest number of votes will drop out and we'll choose. But in this round, it's a choice of three. So I will leave about, is 7 minutes enough? So come back by 25 to, yes, if that's all right with everybody. There we are. So we're back by 25 to 10. I'll switch off my mic and video and look at my emails. Thank you, Ewan.
So we've got all of the votes in. there's nobody who has a clear majority. And so, like I explained previously, the person with the least votes will fall away, and then we're going on to the second round. Elvat, unfortunately, this time you had the fewer amount of votes. So this round will be between Tim and Edgar only. So can I now ask you to vote in the usual way for me again, please? And we'll reconvene at 10 to 11. So can we stop the recording in the meantime again, please? Thank you for your patience. I can confirm that we've had all of the votes and Edgar was successful. Congratulations, Edgar. You're on mute.
Fi nôl ydi sgrin. Gwyddodd. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi pawb am ei bleidleisio.
Thank you very much for everybody who voted for me. I'll do my best to assist Anwen as chair over the next year. It's as if we're supposed to be chair and vice chair. We used to be chair and vice chair a few years ago. Now, anyway, we'll move on in the meantime. Any apologies at all? Please, Anwen. One apology from Mrs. Sarah Hattel. Can I just congratulate Ivor for being chair of Conwydd Council? I think he's the first chair from Conwydd to be on the park as well. It's a great honour. I don't know how you can cope with all of your hobbies as well, and I know Dilwyn would have been a chair before, but this is the first chair we've had on the park. Congratulations, Ivor. Can I just reiterate that? I don't think I have any members of the chairman's announcement today. Thank you officially for voting for me. And can I welcome you all back for another season, especially the new members, of course. Hopefully you'll all be happy amongst us. And it will be really good to see you face to face pretty soon as well. Emyr, the corporate update. Thanks, Anwen, and congratulations to you on being voted as chair, and to Edgar for being voted vice chair. And warm welcome to the new members. There are some that I'm familiar with, but there are some of you who I haven't met yet. I'm looking forward to working with you. I think today has been quite a historical day. Not only the longest session that I've seen to change chair or vice chair, I don't know what the record is, but having a woman in the chair, as referred to previously, congratulations. You're now equally represented on the authority, 9 women and 9 men, which is pretty significant. And from August onwards, you'll be in the majority because there will be 10 women and 8 men. So congratulations. There are quite a few challenges ahead of us as an authority, and part of our heritage here in Eryri is that we're very lucky to have our members. They've given us a lot of consistency and have given us a strategic direction. So I'm really hoping that tradition will carry on. In the last authority, I thanked all of the members for their work during the last term, and I'd like to specifically thank Owen Wynne, our former chair, I think, Owen, this is your last authority meeting. Your period is coming to an end in July, and Owen led us through the first part of coronavirus. So thank you very much for that. John has already reminded you about the planning training that's happening on Friday. If you haven't already responded, please do. On the 1st of July, we'll be having an induction session specifically for new members. The format hasn't been agreed on yet, but we will be in discussions and we'll let you know. In the following week, on the 8th of July, there will be a member development day. So we'll be consulting with the chair to see what sort of issues you'd like to get to grips with. So we'll be an opportunity as well for you to meet outdoors, and so it will be good to meet you in the flesh, so to speak. As far as staffing is concerned, we're glad to be able to report that we've been able to appoint a new head of personnel. Nia Murray has started in her post this year. I'm sure you'll have the opportunity to meet her soon. As far as grants are concerned, we're in the middle of the process of putting in the sustainable places, sustainable landscapes. So I've been in consultation with the former chair, Wynne, and he's just sent me a message and sent his congratulations as chair and vice chair. So that application has gone in. So we'll await the formal grant offer. Also, it's a varying or different situation for the 3 parks in Wales. All 3 parks will have different chairs at the end. By the end of the month, so we'll have 3 new chairs. Pembrokeshire are meeting today, and as far as the National Parks Wales are concerned, the Secretariat is now moving on to Brecon Beacons for the next 2 years. I'll finish on that note because the agenda is really long, and I just want to apologise for that. But it's not all that heavy. It's just that it just so happens that we've got a lot of matters to discuss. Okay, moving on. Any questions from the public? No. Okay. Any declaration of interest on today's agenda at all? If not, membership of the authority. You have had a list of the membership. Item number 7. Your park email addresses are there. Are they correct, or do you want to see any changes or amendments made? Could you let Anwen know if you do, please, rather than wasting time with them now? Also, could you please let Anwen know if you're giving permission for your name, address, and contact number, and the actual email to be published on the park's website? Anything else, Anwen, that you wanted to know? I think there will be training for members so that they can access the corporate emails. Also, there's a mistake in Naomi's name. I'm really sorry for that. It's supposed to be Luhd. I apologize for that. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the authority minutes. The minutes of the authority meeting held on the 27th of April, 2022. Page 6, 7, 8, 9, page 10 and 11. Will anybody propose that they are correct? Elwyn, are you proposing? Yes, I am. Owen, Wynne, are you seconding? Yes, I have one matter arising with your permission. So any matters arising from the minutes? You first, Owen. Thank you, and congratulations to you and Edgar as well. First of all, can I thank Emyr for your kind words? This is my last meeting. I'm looking forward to going through the agenda. The matter I wanted to arise, pick up on, where I formally thanked the chair at the time, Wynne, for his work. I think it's also appropriate that we should thank the other 6 members who have either retired or who haven't been re-elected. Phil Capper, Gethin, Mike Stevens, Judith and Alwyn Griffith. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Alwyn for his services. He was chair of the Performance and Resources Committee for years. And I know that we didn't always see eye to eye on every matter. However, I know that his heart is in the right place. And I think it's appropriate for us as an authority to send them a word of appreciation and thanks to all 6. I don't know if that's needs to be proposed, just a matter arising as such from the minutes. Thank you, Owen, for that. Edgar? If it's a proposal, I was seconding that. I'm sure we'll all agree with that. That we thank all 6 of them. Thank you. Any other matters arising from the minutes? Edgar, you still have your hand up at the moment. Any other matter arising? Can we all have a show of hands that you accept the minutes and they are correct, please? In the usual way.
Diolch. Iawn, nawn ni symud ymlaen.
Madam Cadeirydd, ella well chi egluro'r aelodau newydd. Sut ma'r...
Chairwoman, perhaps you should explain to the new members how the voting system works. Okay. As you can see, if you agree with the minutes, then you press the green arrow, as you can see on our screens. If you disagree, press the red button. I've changed mine to red so that you can see it. If you want to speak, you already know this probably, with Zoom, you put your hand up. I don't think there's anything else that needs explaining. Ewan? The only question I would ask is, can everybody see where the green, red and red buttons are? Because people's equipment can vary and the location of the buttons can vary as well. I think everybody's had new equipment since the last election as well, so it may be different. There was a choice of equipment, and so not everybody chose the same type of equipment. Everybody has the reactions buttons, though. That's where the voting buttons are. Dilwyn, for example, I can see on, according to your face, you can't see where it is at the moment.
Dilwyn, da ni'n mynd clywach chi.
You're on mute, Dilwyn. We can't hear you. Yes, it's not coming up. The reactions aren't coming up on mine for some reason. I can't see it when you gave the choice of tick or cross. This came up on the screen, but you say the reactions. If you can see a cross or a tick, if you press the tick when it comes up on the screen, it's not there now. If I press it, can you see it now? No, not now. It was there before. Oh, it's come up now. So just shows that you have voted. Oh, okay. I think with iPad, I'm not familiar with the iPad system, I must admit, but I think, is it something to do with these three buttons? Do you have reactions coming up there? Can I just say, Dilwyn, go to the top, go to the far left, sorry, the far right, three dots, yes, three little dots. Oh, there we are, I can see them now. Oh, there we are. Thank you, Ivor. Fine. And your green tick is there now. Okay, thank you. So is everybody happy now? Good. So we'll carry on. Item 9 is the action log Yuan. So thank you, Madam Chair. As has been set out in the papers, you have received a brief, concise update from Edward this morning, and the main purpose will be to reassemble the assets subgroup in the autumn, and the intention then with the Youth Manifesto Europac that this group will be held when the membership of the group has been agreed in the next month. Apart from that, I don't have anything else to add. Does anybody have any questions? Brian?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, on page 12 at the bottom, there's reference to the judgment on the Abu Dhabi planning case. I mean, that was rescheduled sometime in the summer. I just wonder whether we know what stage that is in the process.
I can confirm that the Vandals in the Supreme Court, and it'll start the start of the next month, I think, John. Yes, the 3rd and the 4th of July, I think. The fact that the hearing is on the 4th, we won't hear. Well, from my experience with the Supreme Court, they tend to take their time and prepare and their decision. So there'll be quite a lot of waiting afterwards, I think, before we hear the final situation. All right, Brian?
Thank you.
Emir? Thank you, Chair. On page 15, item on resilience with regards to staff. So after we agreed to change the terms and conditions of staff, there's a piece of work to be done by the management team. The chairs group has, well, it's a new group of chairs, and I discussed with the previous chair. And what we recommend is that we look at the workload of the director to start with and do that work. And then if there's a matter we need to consider separately, so that we can give guidance to the chairs of the workload of the directors, just to note that. Thank you, Emir. So are there any questions or comments? Does anyone propose that we accept the action log sheets? Thank you. Can you all show in the usual way with the green tick if you accept them? That has passed, yes. Thank you, everybody. Fine. Onwards then Number 10, sustainable tourism. The Park Authority, to receive a report from Audit Wales. Eros is going to take this, yes? Yes. So welcome to both of you. Welcome to both of you. Which one of you wants to introduce this? Eros, good morning. I'll start, please, Chair. Nick, welcome to you.
Good morning, Chair, and thank you for the invite to the meeting. Myself and Eros have got a short presentation we want to run, so I'm just going to put that up on screen. Just bear with me. Hopefully that's now appeared. Okay, so the report before members summarises the findings from our Sustainable Tourism Review, and this is a piece of work that we've undertaken across the 3 national park authorities. The findings that we'll run through this morning are specific to Snowdonia, but we do include some national messages at the end, and we are planning to publish a very short national think piece on sustainable tourism and national parks in the next month or so. So in terms of why does sustainable tourism matters, I think the last 2.5 years have been challenging for everyone working in the public sector, and in particular for national park authorities in regards to the impact of managing the pandemic. We know that you've had to implement a range of powers and duties to stop people visiting the area when we were in lockdowns. And when the parks reopened, you had the massive challenge of dealing with the switch in people staying in the UK to go on holiday rather than traveling abroad. And that brought with it significant challenges for yourselves as an authority in managing the demands you had on the park. And that really sort of sets the scope really for our work. In terms of sustainable tourism itself, for our review, we've used the United Nations World Tourism Organization's definitions, and I've tried to pull out what I think are probably the key words to think about in terms of the work we've delivered. So really it's tourism that takes full account of its current and future, so not just now, but how you plan to address demands of tourism in the future through an economic, social, and environmental lens, so the impacts that could come across any of those issues. But also you have to then balance this by addressing needs of visitors, people who work within the tourist industry, the impact on the environment, but also host communities. And we think that definition is a pretty good one to use for how you should think about sustainable tourism, because it does fit really well with the National Park Authority's statutory purposes and statutory duty. As National Park Authorities, you've got some almost strange policy sort of drivers, in the sense that you're there to conserve and enhance the natural beauty of the areas you have landscape management responsibilities for, but at the same time encourage and promote tourism, which could have a negative impact on the area that you're there to protect. And in terms of the duty, that really covers the sort of economic and social impact of host communities. So we feel that the United Nations definition does capture it quite well and presents some of the difficulties and challenges facing the authority in delivering this area of work. In terms of our reviews, we always start with an overall question that we're seeking to answer. And this is a question we set for this study. And it was, is the authority doing all it can to effectively manage sustainable tourism in the national park? And then we've looked at 4 sort of key areas. Firstly, the approach you take, is it strategic, and does it pick up on the main drivers that you need to think about? Secondly, how are you working with your key partners to help you support delivery of this quite challenging agenda? Thirdly, are you able to influence and change behaviour in visitors? Because we know that they can have a detrimental impact on the natural environment. Then the final one really was, what national issues do we need to feed back to Welsh Government for them to think about in terms of reforming some of the priorities they set in your strategic remit letter? Overall, we think that the authority has got well-established partnerships, and you clearly are focused on addressing sustainable tourism, but we feel that the vision that you have is probably not as defined as it could be, which does make it difficult to demonstrate some of the impacts. So Eros is going to run through some more detailed findings, and then we'll answer any questions members may have.
Diolch, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Ross?
Thank you, Nick, and good morning. Some of the main things was trying to answer the questions that Nick mentioned. So practically, when we do our visits, we interview officers and mentors, and also the key documents and the data that you use. In addition, this time we have done a survey of tourism businesses, and this was done throughout Wales through Visit Wales. And a number of visitors that responded have been based within the Eryri boundaries. So so I'll run through the main conclusions of the report. First of all, in terms of the strategic approach, Cynllun Eryri clearly has a broad ambition to address this, and notes that you have accepted the sustainable tourism principles by 2025, and this comes up. So our starting point is to understand what is sustainable tourism means for you in Eryri. And in this respect, there's a good and consistent understanding by members and officers of what sustainable tourism is and how it matches the needs of green tourism. So I could meet the needs of visitors and businesses within the industry without being the expense of the environment and the local communities. Beyond what has been noted in the Cynllun Eryri, what's interesting to us is that what has changed and what is going to be different in 2025 as a result of having these principles. And that's why we've come to the conclusion that more work needs to be done to agree on the vision with your partners. And having said that, tourism isn't a black and white area, and the report conveys that it's a complicated area of influencing and managing tourism, certainly not something the park can tackle on its own. In terms of businesses, so next slide, please. You start from a good place in one say, because of those businesses who responded to our survey, the vast majority agreed that sustainable tourism is helping their business. These three questions, it shows a strong level of agreement by business with the concept of sustainability in tourism, and in one extent, the higher numbers of visitors, something that businesses will be keen to see, because at the end of the day, they want to make money. But no, businesses appreciate the need to protect the area, and particularly the park, in order to attract and give a positive experience to visitors. And on the next slide, please, Nick, they're a bit less positive, talking about how they're being included in the work of the park and how well the park explains or encourages them to promote more sustainable tourism. Again, it's obvious that the park itself is an attraction, and how they promote their business opportunities here, I would think, to nurture a better relationship with businesses. In terms of partnerships, Nick, if you can move on, please. In terms of partnerships, it's no surprise to see us, the park, continuing with a strong spirit of collaboration, and the report reports on the progress made and more strategic partnership with Wynne Council to broke the new visitor destination management plan. Paragraph 7 in the park talks about the new car park in Pennet Pass, for example, as they try to reduce how dependent visitors are on their cars in this area. One of the main findings of this part of the report is to convey the impact of your work, particularly within those projects jointly with partners. Do this by focusing on methods rather than individual tasks. In this respect, we're pleased to see the work of officers who are trying to collect robust data to understand the effect of visitors and the seasonal nature of the impact. In terms of measuring impact and monitoring performance, a bit of a chicken and egg situation, you could say. You can see the vision, or not having vision in place. It's hard to know what to measure, but doing the measuring, you need to know we've got the right vision in place. So this the report notes where you are on the journey, as it were, but it makes recommendations to tackle this specifically. So if you can move on, Nick, please. In terms of outcomes or influencing the patterns of tourism and changing behaviours, there's not a lot of evidence to show that this is happening at the moment, but the context is important here. The last 2 summers have been exceptional in terms of numbers and visitor behaviour. We've heard across the 3 parks people visiting these areas who perhaps don't normally come to the countryside, and some of the tensions that have arisen as a result of that. And there's work balancing too in terms of dealing with visitors. There's the day-to-day pressures, but also looking at long-term developments. And the report reports positive things in both areas in terms of day-to-day pressures over the last 2 years, talking about the work of officers dealing with visitors, bins and the car park and the visitor centre. We've had a lot of messages being shared, and by corporate methods, by the park has a good understanding of where resources need to be placed. And more strategically, the report talks about how the park is investing in officers in terms of looking at long-term views and doing work developing data and making strategic partners. And this part of the report, again, you have established strategic partnerships to tackle this. You collaborate well with Wynne Council in establishing the principles. So we're doing what we expect to see up to then. And the only thing we do here is so much hard work has gone in to develop new partnerships. Perhaps the tendency to look at some of these partnerships as outcomes in themselves. But of course, this is a way of getting things done. That's what collaboration is. So I would look for evidence of what has been achieved through these partnerships, and how do you measure and monitor the impact. In the next part, please, Nick. Appendix 2 in the report gives a national context to these findings. As Nick mentioned, we've done the review over the 3 parks in Wales, and we've worked with Visit Wales to do the businesses survey. And clearly the national parks have a crucial part in protecting the area, particularly in the 3 parks. But they have to do this clearly in terms of the strategic measurement, in terms of the balance of conservation, enjoyment by visitors of the area. And if we also bring in elements, economic and social elements of tourism into the mix, on top of the fact that you have 3 fairly small organizations don't have the resources to run this, shows how complex it is. So in terms of national context, this is an update, give you a taste of the context, but what we're talking about here, the Auditor General will give a separate report, a national report on this, summarizing the 3 reviews and giving the matters that the Welsh Government should consider in terms of national policies. Finally, please, Nick. The recommendations in the report stem from things that I've mentioned already. So we talked about the ambition in Cynllunio and the need to clarify your vision and get more positive results hand with this, when you know where you want to go, to ensure that you have robust measures, the strategic outcomes, and finally to make sure that you bring businesses with you. And that's it. Briefly, the results of the report. So happy to answer any questions from members. Thank you very much. Thank you, Euros. So if we can stop, there we are, thank you. So I'll start with questions. So Louise.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a question about sustainability of a couple of businesses. It's quite prudent, actually, because I've been approached recently by 3 camping business owners who are very concerned about the plans to change more of a Malddach car park into a French-style mobile home camper van stopover network. They heard about it via the Daily Post. This will have, and I'm very worried about this myself, and we do talk about this in Gwynedd Council's Planning Committee. I've been a member of that committee for 12 years, and the problems of motorhomes and camper vans parking, for instance, at the Point in Fairbourne. They can tip up for a week. You know, I myself personally don't mind if people park in a lay-by overnight and they're gone in the morning, but I think people are pushing the boundaries of acceptance, and basically this means that local businesses are missing out. I just wondered if you had any thoughts on that. I'm not, obviously this is my first meeting with the National Park Planning Committee, so I'm not quite used to the protocols yet. Can you give me some more information on that, please?
Nick neu Euros?
Nick or Euros? Is anyone going to respond to that? I think in terms of the specific point that Louise has raised on more, there's no basis at all what's gone out on the press about this. There's something that's gone out on social media, and we have asked these websites to take it out. I don't know if you have an update on that.
Oh, so there are no plans. Apparently, I mean, I have, you know, a photocopy of the report. There are no plans, because I would appreciate if somebody from the park could contact the business owners who are extremely concerned for their futures, and also they have youngsters who are born with, they live in the park, live there all their lives, and want to hand over the business to their children so they can stay in the national park. You know, the national park is a wonderful, beautiful place, and we're so lucky to live here, but it's also a working environment, not just for farmers, my husband's a shepherd, but also for other business owners, both in retail and the leisure industry. So this, I went to see a family yesterday, and they said that if this goes ahead, they're seriously considering moving, which is just an awful thing. It's a huge burden. So I really do need some clarification whether this is going ahead or not. And if it's not going ahead, can we get something out in the press, please?
If I can come in on that, Helen has a hand up to answer. And to answer Louise personally, but I'm not aware of any such plans. There's quite a lot of discussion has been in the authority previously about the problem with motorhomes, and it's something that former members and members who returned have discussed quite a lot too. I'm happy to send update to the businesses that are worried about the matter. In terms of the parks area, there are no plans at the moment to put airs in, and we have an officer in my department, a sustainable tourism officer. She every week contacts with the park night and asks them to take down any sites and encouraging people to park in inappropriate places. So happy for you to contact me with details of the businesses, and I can give you an update on to what's been discussed previously. Is that enough, Louise? Yes, thank you.
I think so. I'll liaise with the family that I saw yesterday. Obviously, it's a huge concern to them. Very worrying indeed. But I will. Do we have the name of the sustainable tourism officer in the park so that I can, or shall I just phone?
I think that Helen will contact Louise on this.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
So if you two can contact each other. Brian?
I've got a problem here. Thank you. Thanks, Chair. Yes, I've got two questions really on a broader basis. I noticed within the report on screen and in the report the mention of balance between tourism and our or the promotion of tourism and the conservation of the environment and the landscape, which are embedded in our principles. And I just wanted confirmation that not only in the issue of any particular planning context, but in the general development of our policies and so on, in regard to both of those elements, that the Sanford Principle still is in place. And secondly, in relation to visitor behaviour, which was raised, I am aware that there was some work done, particularly in relation to visitor behaviour and littering. And I don't recall actually having seen the outcome of that research. And I'm wondering whether that is going to come before either the forum or the authority at some stage.
Diolch, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Who can respond to that?
I can
Nick?
respond, Chair, in the first instance, and I'm sure Ross will add any comments in. In terms of your first point around the balance between conservation and tourism, yes, the Sanford Principle still applies, and that is the underlying priority for all national park authorities. The conservation always trumps the impact on the environment, always trumps tourism. So that principle is still in place, and as far as I know, will continue to be in place going forward. On visitor behaviour, I think our report and the national messages part, which is probably more important in some ways, does emphasise that much of this is things that you as a National Park Authority are unable to influence or change. It has an impact on you. It does impact the services you provide, and it does obviously impact the environment of the National Park. And that's why we've done the national summary, is to really raise this first and foremost with Welsh Government to see what pressure they can bring to bear on your key partners to join up and work with you. So, I mean, much of this will fall to a local authority, or in some cases, the police. They have the statutory duties to enforce certain activities, but they're not obviously supporting this work on the ground because they've got other pressures at this time. So it does need something happening at a national level really to drive the agenda. In terms of the specific example you gave, Brian, I'm afraid I don't know anything about that, so I'm not able to respond on the research.
I'm pleased the Sanford Principle is still in place.
On the second point, Brian, I think you might have been referring to the Wyddfa deplastic project. I might have been wrong, but it is one of the projects that we highlighted in the report. It's part of the kind of targeted prevention work that's ongoing. But in terms of updates or where you got to, I'm probably looking to officers to answer that.
Dwi'n meddwl, felly Angela.
I think perhaps Angela can answer that. So welcome, Angela. Thank you very much, and congratulations on your chair. So just a quick update. We did some research last year with Bangor University about behaviour of visitors with regard to litter. We have had the report, and it has helped us with our communication plan and the messages that go out, and we are still doing this research. So we have students through Bangor University doing master's level work this year too, to go out with our volunteers, and we are still collecting information, and the volunteers collect litter, and we have just advertised a post with non-plastic. This has been part of the basis of this post, and I'm looking through the applications for the job now. So I have a meeting this afternoon to create a short list, and hope we'll get an officer in place very soon. Does this answer your question, Brian? Thank you, Angela.
If I can just respond, yes, I think it would be useful at some stage if we had a summary of the outcome of that behavioural research, either to a working group or to authority, so that we can get a better understanding as a board as to the behavioural issues that are being uncovered through the work. Obviously, it's informing your day-to-day work, but I think at a strategic level, it'd be very interesting for us to get a better understanding of what's coming out of that research as we, look further forward into the future.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, thank you.
Emyr, da chi eisiau dod i mewn?
Emyr, do you want to come in before we move on? Yes, just on the back of Brian's comment about Sanford, Exhibit 4 on page 29, I think in that box, is that 52 say that negative and the balance. So I can't read through. Are we doing too much? Are we doing too much conservation work or too much promotion work? So just bring this to the attention of members. Fine, thank you. I think, Chair, if I can just come back on the Sanford point. Hello. I think that this point in the report notes in the survey that we asked the businesses, do you feel they feel that you have a balance between appropriate balance? That's the findings there. Thank you. Right. Tim? Thank you, Chair, and congratulations. I just want to raise the report as mentioned, the project for ambassadors. For me, the project, a lot more that can be offered to help to create bridges between us and the businesses that are working in the park, to create bridges and also to raise awareness on both sides on how they work and how we as an authority work with them. Just to ask a question, perhaps Angela could answer, or Jenny. If we look at developing this, what's the future? Are we going to extend and do more of it? Thank you very much. Thank you, Tim. Angela, can you answer that? Yes, thank you for the question, Tim. This scheme, as you know, has been very successful. We're very proud of it. And over 700 ambassadors have been recruited in North Wales. And yes, we are reviewing the scheme all the time, and we're having discussions on how to improve it and expand it. And exactly what we hope now is that we can create some sort of program and offer talks and opportunities to the ambassadors to come and visit us and visit some of the projects that are taking place in the park and so on, and of course go out more to meet them. So in the autumn, so we hope to go around some of the businesses, the hospitality businesses in the area with Raleigh, for example. And so yes, we are reviewing it constantly and thinking about how we can reach out more to them. But we have contacts. So when I send an email out to them, we get a response. So I feel that we are in a situation, better situation than we have been with links with companies. And clearly, I'll raise this later on, the work we're doing with Wynne too, that includes looking very detailed at the tourism and sector and the tourism businesses too. So we have a module of sustainable tourism in the ambassadors package, and this is being developed jointly with the work that we are doing with Wynne Council too. So yes, I think that it is quite a strong and a suitable portal to be more linked with them. Thank you, Angela. Fine, thank you very much. So Naomi. Thank you, Wynne. Thank you. Congratulations too. Just want to, I wanted to answer a question, but I think Angela has answered it. If the report had looked at the principle and the practice that we need to understand more of how to make our practices better. Angela? Yes, if I understand rightly, perhaps Eros and Nick can come in more in the recommendations in the report, but the report gives a context of work that is going on at the moment. We are working to develop a strategic plan jointly there's a memorandum of understanding between the Park Authority and Gwynedd Council, and we are hoping to have a proposal, strategic proposal in place the next few months, and we're in the process of establishing a partnership in the area that includes then every area and the representatives of communities with the education sector and so on. And this partnership will create a very detailed action plan. And so this will then respond to some of the recommendations in Nick and Aris's report, which talk about revealing more of the actual activities and how we're going to achieve the aims and what will be a long-term vision. Does this answer your question, Naomi?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Owen?
Owen? Thank you, Madam Cadeirydd. This is a question to Nick and Aros, specifically about the messages that are going back at the national level. The work has focused on the framework of sustainable development. I'm just reading the minister's letter, which relates to this is on page 40 in the second paragraph, and they don't use the term sustainable tourism. Is the audit comfortable that the Welsh Government is giving us the correct framework over the term of the government in order to implement sustainable tourism? Nick or Aros, who wants to answer that?
I can pick that one up, Chair. I mean, we are independent of the Welsh Government, and whilst we do encourage them to consider our national messages in terms of remit letters and other policy directives, it's not a requirement for us to actually require them to follow directly what we say. I think what they're talking about is the spirit of our findings and ensuring that the National Park authorities act on them. And in that respect, and listening to certainly the responses from officers in this meeting, we have confidence, as we do with all the work we deliver with Snowdonia, that you will take our findings seriously and you will act on them. And equally, we believe the Welsh Government intend to use our findings to shape their priorities going forward.
Diolch, Nick.
Thank you, Nick. Does this answer your question, Owen? It worries me rather. The word sustainable tourism isn't in the minister's letter, and perhaps this is something the officers could discuss with government officers, officials later on to see if we're going in the same direction. Thank you. Louise?
Unmute. Yeah, with regards to visitor behaviour, and it drives me insane when I see litter and gates open. I stop quite frequently in lay-bys and pick up litter because it's appalling. So I'm of an age where I remember adverts on the telly about the countryside code, and it used to be taught in schools. Is there any way that we could facilitate, I don't know, promoting the countryside code more? You know, people come to the countryside and some people treat it with the most utter disrespect. Is that something we could do as an authority?
Helen?
I think Helen can answer that. Yes, no problem. We have a campaign which is going to be launched in the next few weeks, Louise, that relates to try to influence behaviour. But our feeling over the last 3 years, particularly during the COVID period and the new visitors that we've had who don't necessarily have an understanding of how to behave in the countryside, is that we need a national campaign in order to influence, because the lack of understanding is so basic that it's difficult for us at the level of Eryri alone just to influence on that. Although we're trying our best, we have money from Visit Wales to do this campaign this year. So I'd like to see more information coming out in the next few weeks. We have created a package with the ambassadors scheme where the 700 of ambassadors then spread the message, so which is great because there's only so much that we can do on our own. But when we have all these businesses saying the same thing too, it's much more powerful, isn't it? I suppose the point that I would like to finish on, more general, is that this report is in a way gets to the core of the challenge that we're dealing with in Eryri. And it comes back to Anwen's point at the start of the meeting about tourism. And we have seen a split between the area, in this area, between how some of our communities feel about visitors and the negative impact that tourism has on them. And then some businesses are pushing for more visitors to come to the area. And there's a real balance to be had there, I think, in the future. And that's where we, I think, are trying to collaborate with Gwynedd Council and Conwy Council and local communities to try to get the balance better. What we see is a lot of our communities under pressure, and we're trying to draw everyone together to try to deal with this. Thank you, Helen. All right, Louise, you happy with the answer? Thank you. John, you're on mute. Question to Helen. We talked a lot about the ambassadors. Are they local to Eryri? Or are there people who've come out from outside or live outside Eryri? I'd like to know. Most of them are businesses that are in the Eryri area or bringing business to the Eryri area. But we have one or two, a few at random. We have one in America, for example, but they're pushing our messages out over the social media. So every bit helps, doesn't it? Yes, thank you very much. Yes, it does. Thank you. Does anyone else have any question or comment with this report? Fine. So can someone propose that we accept the report? Thank you, Elwyn. Is someone to second it? We second it. Thank you. So can you show, please, in the usual way with the green arrow, as usual? I think this has been carried, hasn't it? Yes, this has been carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. So can I take the opportunity to thank Nick and Eros for coming to us this morning and for the report. It's a very interesting one. So see you again, no doubt, later on in the year. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. So we'll move on to number 11, the term of government remit letter for James as sent to Wynne as chair of the park at the start of the last meeting. Emyr?
I'll just give you a bit of background on this one for the new members. A review of the national parks had been undertaken, and one of the things that came out was that there was a need for priorities for these areas. And so we came out with a strategic document called Valued and Resilient. We did expect that document to be refreshed, if you like, following the election, but the Minister Julie James decided to go down a different route by sending individual letters on priorities to the different national parks. So for us to deliver with Welsh Government. So it's there to note there are some things that are a bit challenging, but I do think it's in the direction that we're moving towards. In any case, you will notice that the corporate work program will be put in front of you, and they've tried to intertwine that into the corporate work program already. So it's to note, and the Minister will be challenging us every 6 months, more than likely, on how we're developing things on this. And the chair and vice chair will be reporting on progress in relation to this. Something to look forward to. We don't need to accept this. This is for information only. Am I right? I would appreciate any comments, but I don't think the Minister will change the letter, though. What Owen did note one thing in the letter earlier. Did you want to come in now? I'm not going to reiterate that message really if Emyr feels that it's a point where we need some clarification. I'm sure he'll follow that up in any case with the Minister. There are some other points I'd like to make, if I can be brief. First of all, what Emyr didn't underline was this is a letter for the government's term. We used to have them year on year, and so this is quite important that as an authority we understand what the messages are and what the challenges are in the next few years, not just for the next year but for the next few years. I just wanted to pick a couple of things out of it, specifically the fourth paragraph down on the second page. It involves governance, and I think it's important for new members to understand the work that we've been undertaking over the past few years in order to try to respond to that challenge of improving our governance. What's important to remember, what's going to be at the back of the mind of the Minister is the difficulty that has happened in the Brecon Beacons Authority. I won't go into detail, but to all intents and purposes, there are special measures that have been put upon the authority because of difficulties relating to members' relationship with each other and with the staff. That comes down to culture. And one of the good things about the past 5 years here is that there's been a very good culture of cooperating and working collaboratively in the authority. And I would ask the new members to respect that and understand and build on that in the future in order to avoid a situation where, in the eyes of the Minister, and even it could put a question mark under the National Park Authority's future in relation to creating the regional bodies. That's something that you need to keep in mind for the future. I'm saying this now because I won't be a part of it myself, but it's pretty challenging. Anyway, and secondly, from the point that was raised, the inclusion strategy has happened last week, and there are important messages coming out of that. That is inclusion, diversity and governance, an excellent strategy. So there are a few things in relation to that that we need to chew on the cud on. Just a few notes like that. Brian?
Thank you very much, Wynne. Yes, just one question really, probably for Emyr in terms of reaction. I was welcoming the emphasis in the letter on biodiversity and the need for the parks to focus strongly on biodiversity in this period. And I'm wondering whether Emyr is comfortable in the policies and what we have in place at the moment to build on that, or whether that is something that we again may need to come back to so that we can address this with the degree of emphasis that appears in the letter.
I think we'll need to revisit that. We need to go through the policies that we have in supporting biodiversity and nature and the challenge with climate change. I know that John and Rhys have started to work on a very basic document to give this structure, but what makes it complex is that we're still waiting to see what the plan is that will support agriculture or rural agriculture. And that's really important. I don't know, John, if you wanted to come in on that. Nothing else to add to that, I don't think. Okay, Brian.
Yes, thank you. I'm very pleased that it will come back to us to go through in more detail, because I do think it's such a crucial part going forward that we as an authority need to get our head around it perhaps a little more than we have done in the last couple of years or so.
Diolch.
Just i gadarnhau bod y gweinidog yn
Just to
meddwl.
confirm that the minister is also think that's strategically important. She's given the parks in Wales resources to support 2 or 3 officers, 2 with the environment and 1 with inclusion of members. Those have gone out to market at the moment, and so we're expecting to see those posts filled pretty soon. Tim? Just a couple of things that I'd like to raise. More extensive, first of all, looking at the 2 last paragraphs on page 39. It refers to the appointment of national parks, not undertaking work with conservation. The SSIs, etc., and the designations relates a lot to the lack of funds. I can speak from experience about this. It's important that we're not drawn into funding in relation to this type of work, but it's important that we look at the sustainable agriculture to do everything that we can on a landscape scale to ensure that biodiversity is protected. And I'm sure that there's a good background that the park has in relation to this type of work, and I'm sure this will continue in the future, and we won't be drawn into the old difficulties that have happened with the sites that have been designated for a certain amount of time. The minister has commissioned a deep dive into nature and designated landscapes, and as national parks, we've been involved with 2 sessions. The last one was yesterday, and we were discussing resources and services in order to support the landowners to be able to deliver. One more thing, quickly. On page 45, in that box, in italics, I'll read it in English.
Habitats and woodlands and the biodiversity contain, inclusive of invasives. Dwi'n quite yn sicr os dyn nhw'n sôn am
I'm not quite sure if they're talking about getting rid of rhododendron there, but it doesn't strike me that that wording is sensible as such. Perhaps the wording reflects the park's ambitions to get rid of invasives from the area, and this is a way of being able to justify that. Maybe the wording is poor, but the intention behind that is to include the removal of rhododendron and Himalayan balsam from landscapes that store carbon. I hope the resource will be there to undertake this work. Ivor? Apologies if you can hear background noise from me. Ivor Glynn has contractors in. Julie James hasn't linked education and the future, and the children are our future, of course, and not referred to climate change, and that affects our parks, and there's an opportunity with a new curriculum because Lord Donaldson has amended the curriculum to refer to things like climate change and how children learn. I just wanted to make those comments as such. I'm sure we'll forward these comments to Julie James, will we, Amir? John? Just quickly, does our planning policy, is it good enough to looking forward and promoting sorry, I didn't catch that. Are our policies open enough to be able to support these plans so that we can develop them further? Emyr, who's going to respond to that? Well, I'm not an expert in the planning field. John is the expert, and it will be an opportunity, and this is why it's for the term of government, sorry. And so he will have a role to undertake that assessment. John, did you want to come in? No, Emyr has said exactly what I would have said. The review of the plan will start in the next year. It's up to you as members when you want to start the review. But if you feel that it's something that doesn't coincide with the government's objectives, then we can amend the plan in order to reflect that. That takes a long time, but the process is going to happen in the next year, 18 months or so. Does anyone else have any comments or questions in relation to this letter? Naomi? Yes, a quick question. What's happening with biodiversity? The 4th point in the letter. What's the plan with that? Diversity, sorry, not biodiversity. I couldn't hear. They've asked her to do it in relation to the 3 parks. Pembrokeshire will be leading on that, and we'll be working with them to complete additional work on that. Any further questions? Elwyn? Propose that we accept the report, Chairman. So we're accepting it as information. No need to show hands, do you think? It's for information only. Am I right? No, I think it would be a good thing, actually, if you do accept it formally. Do we have a seconder, therefore, for Elwyn's proposal? John? Edgar? Can we have a show of hands in the usual way, please, with the green button? Motion carried. Isn't it, Iwan? If you can confirm. Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Moving on. Item 12, to appoint members to serve on committees, panels, working groups and external representation. You do have a list of the different committees within the authority. And so over to you, Emyr. You're reporting on this, are you? It'll be a double act between myself and Anwen, so that we can keep track of this. So, Planning Committee, all authority members, Performance and Resources, all authority members, Standards. There are 2 vacant seats. And of course, if there are nominations, then you'll need to confirm that it's appropriate. 1 from Gwynedd Council and 1 from Conwy Council. The only thing I would add is this is a period of 4 years. It's not a post that changes on a yearly basis. And it's 1 meeting per year. It'll be 2 from now on. Will anybody propose any names? 1 from Gwynedd and 1 from Conwy? Everybody's quiet. You're welcome to nominate yourselves as well, if you're interested. Propose Ivor in Conwy. Ivor, do you accept? You're no longer on the screen at the moment.
Sorry.
Apologies. I popped Lou. Can you ask the question again? John Pugh proposed you as a member of the Standards Committee to represent Conwy. If you have a look down the list, I'm on a lot of these, so I'd rather give somebody else the opportunity. Joe or Dilwyn? Propose Dilwyn then. Do you accept Dilwyn? Yes, I accept. Thank you. Second that. Member from Gwynedd Council now, please. Can I propose Elfed, please? Elfed, do you accept? Second Elfed. Yes, I accept.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, number.
Yeah, repeat.
Okay, Emyr. Number 4, single status grading appeals panel. This panel hasn't met for years, but we need nominations just in case, please. It's the actual Standards Committee who makes the decision in relation to this, in relation to single status grading. Okay, working groups, all authority members, local joint working group, group between the staff, unions and members of the management team. 1 vacancy. Can both the others confirm their membership? It's important to note that the members who are already there, this is of course a new authority, and so if anybody wants to withdraw or if anybody wants to put forward their names, there may be a competition. You can go to the vote if you want. It's there for information only, the councillors who are already there. The ones from the authorities, Elwyn, the vacancy was Judith. Ivor and Elwyn are willing to stay? Yes, fine by me, Elwyn. Thank you. Me too. Ivor Lloyd. We want 1 appointment from the authority to replace Judith. Propose Edgar. Also, not propose, sorry, Edgar. We have a councillor from Conwy, Gwynedd. What about Welsh Government then? There's already 1 from the government. We need 1 from the authority. Mrs. Sarah Hattel. Do you propose anybody? Can I propose Kim, please? Kim, do you accept? The next is a risk on management board. So there's 1 vacancy because Wynne is finishing with the authority. And Elfed and Elwyn need to confirm unless anybody else wants to put their names forward as members of the Ysgwrn. I'm sure that Elfed and Elwyn are willing to stay, are you? Yes, that's fine by me unless anybody else wants to replace it. Yes. 1 from Welsh Government, please. Can I propose Tracy? Because she lives not far away. I'm on the Plastan a Bwlch Management Board. Somebody new would be good, I think. There will be 1 new member from Welsh Government from August, from Cricket, I think. So I don't know if you want to keep some vacancies open for Delith, maybe? Should we wait until then? Naomi, would you be interested in being on this group? Yes. Yes, thank you.
John, stop your pen if you mind.
Stop putting my name forward, John. That was Tracy talking to John. Anyway, Plas Ana Bwlch Management Board, 3 members. We have Tracy and Tim, current members. So a vacancy, ideally from local government. Can I put John Pugh's name forward?
John, ti'n derbyn?
John, do you accept?
Ti ar mute?
You're on mute.
Yeah.
Plas Ana Bwlch?
Oh.
No.
Rhywun nhw arall?
Any other nominations?
Chi gyd yn ddistaw to?
Everybody's quiet.
Okay.
Can I propose myself? Second that.
Meryl. Meryl oedd e.
That was Meryl. Second Meryl. Thank you, Meryl.
Rhan nesa di bwyllgor
The
ymgynghorol.
next one is the authorities advisory committees, starting with the Celyn Tegid and Tryweryn Advisory Conference. 1 vacancy there. And the other 3 need to confirm if they want to continue or put forward other nominations. The ones who are representing the authorities, Elwyn and Ivor. Brian is there on behalf of Welsh Government. Are you 3 willing to remain? Confirmed. Can I propose June on this, please? Gethin used to be on this one, didn't he? June? Yes, that's fine by me. Forum Eryri, 5 members. Chair, Vice Chair are automatically members of Forum Eryri. So the vacant one is from a Welsh Government background. No, sorry, local government background. The Welsh Government appointees, Brian. Ivor and Brian, are you happy to remain? I'll give somebody else the opportunity if they wish.
I'm happy to remain there, Chair, if you want me there.
Iawn, diolch. Un o Gwynedd a un o Gonwys isio felly.
One from Gwynedd and one from Conwy is what we require then, Emyr, isn't it? To get the balance, yes. Can I propose Joe on behalf of Conwy? Joe has gone to another meeting at the moment. She'll be back later. Can we keep that seat open for her so that she can get the experience? You work with other partners and she'd get a good taster of what's actually happening in the park. Everybody happy with that? Could we have a name in reserve, please, just in case Joe doesn't accept? Dilwyn? In reserve? Propose Dilwyn.
Ar y sgrin ma. Da chi fodlon rydych enw gem, Dilwyn?
Are you happy to put your name in reserve? I will, yes, if Joe isn't willing. Can you have one from Gwynedd Council? Can I propose Kim? Because she represents Llanberis. I think it's important to have a voice from the area on the forum. Okay, Kim's confirmed. The authority runs 2 local access forums to advise on issues relating to access. We have one from the authority, John, and the Northern Access Forum, Tim. I'm happy to carry on with that. John? Yes, I'm happy to carry on this other one too. Thank you. Eryri Equality Forum, Ivor. Does anybody else want to be included on that? Or does anybody else want to be nominated? I'm happy to remain unless anybody else fancies that. The next one is the task and finish groups and steering groups that the authority scrutinizes some subjects. The first one is the assets subgroup. As you can see, there are 3 vacancies. I'm happy to do one. Tim's name is in reserve. Tim's happy to do that, to be a full member to replace Owen. Okay, Tim? Yes, thank you. We need another 2. One from Conwy and one from Gwynedd, or does it matter? There's only already one from Conwy. Phil and Gethin were there previously, weren't they? Any nominations? We need 2. Propose Meryl. Meryl, you happy with that? Yes, happy, thank you. One more nomination, please.
Dwi'n fodlon bod arno fo.
I'm willing to be on that. Thanks, June.
Iawn, mae hwnna di sortio.
Okay, that one's sorted. The next one is communication. We've just adopted the communication strategy, so the work involves scrutinizing that and advising officers. As you can see, there's 1 vacancy there. Can I suggest Naomi? With your background, I think you'd be good. Yes, I'll do it. Thank you.
Group Manifesto Ieuenctid.
Youth Manifesto Group. 1 vacancy. John Pugh and Tracy, are you happy to remain? Yes.
June?
Can I suggest June? Because I know you have a lot of interest in this, June. Would you like to be on this group? I was going to propose Kim because she's so much younger than me. It really doesn't matter about the age. I'm willing, but I'm happy to give Kim the first opportunity. I'm happy for June, to be honest. I totally don't mind if she's interested. I've caused a major problem here now. Anyway, I totally don't mind at all.
I really feel that it would be a very good idea for Kim to be on it. Yes, okay, no problem. I'm happy with that. Thank you. Thank you. So then the next group is the traffic management task and finish group. This takes over the strategic work that we do with transport, specifically in the north, but the wider consideration too. John Pugh, Edgar and Tracy are on it. Are you 3 members? 3 members, we want 3 members, don't we? 3. So are you willing to stay? Yes, I'm willing. Yes. Plus anybody else wants to take my seat? Yes. So I have a right as vice chairman. Can someone correct me? But the chair and vice chair can be ex officio. So, but if the group, you have stronger membership, voting and so on, voting if you're a member of the group. So it's appropriate for the vice chairman to be a member of the group if he wants to be. What we want is people who are interested in this area. And sorry, Kim, if you cover the Llanberis area, it's obvious to me that the problems around Ogwen and Llanberis So I'm happy enough to stand down if somebody else wants to take over. But what I want is to get the right members to the right tasks in a way. Only thing I would say is that you're putting a lot on Kim, a new member. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, is going to come in exactly the same point, but I'm willing to stay if it's all right to do that. Yes, it's all right for you to do so. So I'm looking at the CV of a member who's going to join in August, and there's so media management strength of that. So I don't know if you want to ease the pressure on Kim because she's on the communication group. So sorry, my notes are wrong. So we need to remember to keep a place for the new member. So we can go to Edgar, can go to the committee anyway. Just I won't be able to vote. Yes, we can go, but we can't vote. All right. So what is it? Traffic management. Who's on it? John Pugh, Edgar, and Tracy. Yes. I suggest we leave it as it is and move on to the next one. All right. It's difficult with a new authority if everyone doesn't understand what the workload is. So by agreement, be different. So Carbon Account Steering Group is the piece of work that the authority has been leading on for a number of years. So it's important that we have representation on that. There is a vacancy on that. Can I propose Tim for that? I'm very happy. Are you willing to stay, John and Brian? Yes, I'm very happy. Okay, and Brian,
yeah, I'd like to stay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So then, place name steering group, the two vacancies here. Is Elwyn willing to stay? Yes, I'm willing, Chair. So Elwyn and Judith were there on that. Can I propose June for this? Yes, I'm willing to do this. Would you better have somebody from Conway too, so we can balance this? Can I propose Dilwyn?
Yeah.
Fine. Thank you. And then the Welsh Language Promotion Strategy Steering Group. This was discussed in the previous authority or working group. We want to reset our strategy, and you agree to have a subgroup to do this work. So we want 3 members to do this work. This is new this year. So we want 3 names, therefore. So there are no names down at the moment. Yes. What about Delith? Fine. Edgar, you have your hand up. Yes, I was going to propose Elwyn. I second that. Thank you. You all right, Elwyn? Yes, Chair. Thank you very much. So we want one other. Elved? Yes, I second that. Yes. Yes. And then the last part is external bodies that we have representatives on. The first is the South Trawsfynydd Site Stakeholder Group. So Elved is the local member. So he. Can I propose Louise? I haven't seen her name on any committee. And
yeah, well, I was kind of standing here twiddling my thumbs, thinking, you know, I've got a lot of experience in all sorts of ways that utilize me anywhere you want, guys. What am I being proposed for? Yeah, okay, Trouse. Trouse is nice.
Okay.
Trousfynydd site stakeholder group. Is that the Trousfynydd power station site?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hapus.
Iawn, diolch.
Fine, thank you. Are we going to have an election or is it just one name? No, Elfyd says he's happy to stay too. So Elfyd is the local member, isn't he, for Trousfynydd? It's up to you what you want to do. Can we have a suggestion from you?
So is this
I think
just
that
one person on this?
Yeah.
Well, it's up to Elfyd. I mean, if he's a local member, it does make sense for him to be
it's hard. Didn't realise that Elfyd was there. I'll withdraw my proposal and carry on with Elfyd. Is Louise willing with that? Are you willing, Louise?
I'm fine. I don't mind. What? So what's happening? Sorry, it gets lost in translation. Am I?
Yeah, you're going off.
I'm off.
Elfyd is going.
And Elfyd's on.
Yeah.
Fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cyd Cyngor Cymru.
Joint Council for Wales. So I was doing the work. Yes, I've been doing this for 2 years. And just to explain a bit of background, what it is effectively, it's a joint council between the employers and employees in local government, which looks specifically at things like work conditions and the welfare of workers. I wrote to Ewan, I think, after the last one, and I felt it's more appropriate for the new personnel officer to certainly to be present in these meetings. But if you feel that a member is important, you need to remember we're talking about employers here who employ thousands. We employ just over 100, and so we have no influence at all. But if you feel that we need a member, fine. But I personally would feel it's more appropriate to send a personnel officer to these meetings. Does anyone have any comment on this? What Owen has just said? Does anyone agree? I second this. That's common sense. The original intention was that a personnel officer would go every time and have a member with the personnel officer. That was what we received originally from the Joint Council, but I don't think that John went, so the member went on his own. That's what happened, that the personnel officer could go with a member. I have never gone to a meeting. The only thing I've had is virtual meetings over the last. Can I propose?
Louise?
Louise?
What being proposed for now?
Joint Council for Wales.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that if nobody else is on it or wants to propose somebody else. Joint Council for Wales. What does that entail then? I'm a new kid on the block here.
It's an advisory board as an employer.
Okay, happy with that.
Right.
National Trust, Beth Gellert, local liaison committee. This is quite local. I propose June. Yes, I'm willing to do this.
Iawn, carry ymlaen Emyr.
So we carry on, Emyr, the campaign for national parks. I'm happy to do it. So the only thing we have to check, you need to have somebody, was that Tim's voice? Yes. We need to have someone, it's noted that we send one from three. They will put you as a reserve. Fine. Alliance for Welsh Designated Landscapes. Yes. Sorry, this is the one I meant. There we are. Okay. So Tim, you're willing. Thank you. Welsh Local Government Association Council. Owen used to be on this. This is the WLGA. Yes. I propose Dilwyn. Second, Dilwyn. Dilwyn, are you willing? If nobody else is keen to go, does this mean the WLJ, the monthly WLJ meetings? No, it's not the exec, just the annual meeting in a way. Oh, yes, if everybody else is happy, I'll do it. Fine, thank you, Dilwyn.
Ardal Gadwraeth Penllyn a Sarnau.
Penllyn Sarnau Special Area. This is the coast outside Eryri. Usually we have two members who are interested in this part of the world. I'm as a reserve, I can go anyway. Can I propose Louise?
Goes away, I don't mind at all.
This is the Sarnau scheme, yes?
Penllyn a Sarnau.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
Thank you. Then Snowdonia Green Key Executive Group. Alwyn was on that too. Yes, they stopped meeting because but it hasn't been formed formally, hasn't come to an end formally. So I'm not sure how many meetings there'll be, but clearly Alwyn had been appointed because it's part of his ward, the traffic scheme. I'm willing to propose myself for this. I have traffic problems, as you know. Thank you, June.
Fforwm strategol yn Ysynnu.
Energy Island strategic form. This is to do with developing Wilfa. Alwyn was on this too, and Traus too. Sorry, yes. I propose Elfed. How many meetings are there with this? Not as many as all that. 2 at the most in a year. Okay. Yes, fine. Because I'll carry on with that as I'm not on Traus at the moment. Thank you, Elfed. Dyfi Biosphere Partnership. Owen was doing this with Tim. So I don't want it. Thank you very much. So you've no, it's it's a long way from my home, and I've got a history with this, so I would prefer not to. Can I propose Louise for this? That's what I was going to think. Louise, are you happy?
Hang on a minute, I've got proposals coming at me all over. Which one are we on now? Energy Island? Is that Love Island? I don't know. Oh yeah, I'll definitely do that. Dyfi, yep, that's my area. I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Sorry.
So do we want a reserve? We don't want a reserve member, do we? No, not really. There we are. Thank you, John. And you're pleased to hear that the next relates to the Cambrian Coast Railway Liaison Conference. So there's a vacancy here. Can I propose Meryl for this? Louise and I are on it anyway, aren't we? The Cambrian Railway. The 2 of us are on it anyway. I'm happy. I was going to put my name forward, so thank you, June. Can I propose perhaps Delith, who lives in Criccieth, as a reserve, if you're on it already?
Na fo.
There we are.
Na fo.
Diolch i chi am.
Thank you for that. So we have recorded your members. So names of people on these groups will be in the minutes. Thank you. So can we go on? What do you want to do? It's 25 to 1. Do you want a break for lunch and resume, or do you want to carry on? And when, I'm sorry, we have to remind that I have to go to a funeral in Abergele, so I need to apologize. It's all right, Ivo. So can I apologize for part of the committee because I'm not sure if my computer's working. There's a Plas Tan of Bulch meeting at 2 o'clock, so I need to have a break and take the dog for a walk before then. I think perhaps the authority should take priority over the Plas. So Anwen has been taking minutes since 10 o'clock, and the translators too. Well, the translators can take it in turns, Anwen can't. So I'm happy to carry on. Doesn't make any difference to me. I think we have a lot of business. We're never going to get finished without having a break for lunch. I can see a lot of messages. Brian has to go at 2. Edgar, do you have something? It's proposed that we break for half an hour. Tim, I just suggest that we should postpone the Plas Tan of Bulch meeting. There's no point in trying to do it at 2 o'clock. We're not going to have time at the end of the afternoon. John, you're on mute. I need to apologize. I have something else on at 2 o'clock. Okay. Okay. So what we're doing, break and resume at 1 o'clock. Is everyone happy with that? Well, a bit later than 1 because it's 20 to 1 already. What about 10 past 1? Yes. And don't log off. Just leave your computer as it is. And yes, we'll stop the video. Can I just confirmation that I'm going to ask Sarah to defer Plas Tan of Bulch meeting, please. Okay. And we pause the recording for a start. So I'll see you at 10 past 1. Fine, thank you. The recording has restarted now. Thank you. So welcome back to all of you. And then we'll start, therefore, with item 22, which is on the programme, meetings of other organisations. This is for information. There's no discussion or anything like that. So I know John Pugh has a report to give us. I don't know if anyone else has. John, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yes, a very short report. There are various figures on on Snowdon and Cadair Idris and so on. And as it happened, a lot in August, and then it went down afterwards. One thing, and the draft regeneration strategy update, it felt that they were supposed to make a decision, not the authority. So this is all right. Fair play. They felt that they should have the last word on it. And then Natural Resources Wales, there was some concerns that they're going to raise the level of the water overflowing the land around. That was one concern. And we don't want to swallow a lot of agricultural land around it. And then the draft transport, then onto the park, they put a piece in a lot the same, talking about landscape camping, a lot of people who have gone to Bala Lake, and a lot of people went to some places, and a great concern with seeing these traffic cones everywhere. But again, that was a concern by some people. And then on to Arfon Hughes from reported about the plan, and to spent over $250,000 of money on improving paths in the Ysbyty area. And there's a meeting supposed to happen with farmers and local people with the maps, and make sure that the maps are 100% correct before we open it up. So an opportunity for anyone who wants to have a look at the maps. That's on Wednesday, 22nd, 5 o'clock. And then, said how grateful to finish the work. A lot of the work had been a great benefit for him because they had to open the path anyway, and keep the open the path tidy. And those who walk from Idris, they'll know where people are. And then on to the recommendation to the next meeting, and that's it really. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, John. Elved, I just want to report back from the Trawsfynydd stakeholders board. They're talking and discussing, they want to open more waste stores. And I don't know if we had an update from the Egino company recently. I feel perhaps we should invite Cwmni Egino, which has been formed in order to collaborate with the power station. John Idris Jones, he leads this group, and I think we should invite them to meet the authority. I think we should look at the situation there and see exactly what they have in mind with the power station, and get an update from them. I think, Madam Cadeirydd, how we'll go around that. What do people think about that? Emyr, John has had a virtual meeting just to get to know the company's chief executive. John, have you had perhaps a bit more input later? But we could invite them to a working party to have informal discussions with them. Yes, perhaps it's a bit premature. The Egino company has been formed, and there aren't any robust plans underway. If the company is there, obviously, in order to try to get money in and to try to make a case for the site. But I could ask the questions if you want. So if you're happy for me to do so, I can ask a question with them. I invite them to come to a working group. Another point, clearly there's quite a lot of work, decommissioning works taking place on the site at the moment. So there will be applications coming before the committee over the next few months. Okay. No, I just saw that the wheels turning a bit faster, and I thought that perhaps we as an organization might want to know what's going on. That's what I was concerned about. Thank you very much. Great, thank you. Thank you, Elved. Does anybody else have anything? John, just on Elved's point, it's important that the local member goes, in whatever happens to the authority, the local member needs to know, because at the end of the day, he's one who answers to the public. Yes, there's a good, have good contacts with the PowerPoint, but I just thought that it would be a good thing for you to have an update from them. Thank you very much. Thank you. Does anybody else have a report of a meeting or a committee that they've been attending on behalf of the authority? No? Fine. So could we move on then, and we'll come back to the normal order on the programme, that is 13. That is the annual report to the authorities, get a report from the chair of the Standards Committee. There's a copy in your agenda. The chair of the committee isn't present. If I can come in there, Mrs. Rachel Davis was here until 12. Unfortunately, she has a work meeting and has to catch a train. Oh, if I'd known, I could have brought this forward earlier. Yes. So she's had to go to a meeting. I have agreed to present this report on her behalf. Okay, Ewan, okay, you can present it therefore. So in terms of this report, it's a new duty on the Standards Committee. In the past, you have had similar reports from me as monitoring officer, and these reports are no longer presented to you. Paragraph 1 and 2, we set out the terms of reference and specific functions relating to the Standards Committee, and then in paragraph 3 point out that the Standards Committee also has some staff functions. Paragraph 4 sets out what the membership or present membership of the Standards Committee is. We have appointed earlier this morning for the members from the local authority, and the annual report itself is in paragraph 9 until 57. We confirm that the Standards Committee has met twice during the year and considered member training on both occasions. We considered the declarations of interest forms completed by members of the authority and advised on how they could be improved. The Standards Committee gave a general dispensation to members of Wynne Council and Conwy County Borough Council to enable those members to take a full part in the process that stemmed from the planning process, and there are technical reasons for that we're discussing annually. And then the Standards Committee also contributed to the work of the task and finish group's work on governance, and no matters referred to the Ombudsman, and similarly no to the local authority, the local resolution committee, or to the adjudication panel for Wales. Then the committee held one meeting to determine an appeal hearing, and the Standards Committee will continue to monitor progress on training, and also similarly the Standards Committee during the year contributed to work done by the North Wales Standards Committee Forum. The recommendation is to discuss and agree the contents of this report. Thank you. Thank you, Ewan. So you have seen what the recommendation is, that we discuss and agree the contents of this report. Does anybody have anything that they want to raise? Tim? I want to ask from the 15, we know that that from the report that nothing went to the Ombudsman or the Commission. What happened to those who didn't? Had they been dismissed, or was there something to respond to them? Just a bit of an idea of what sort of things these were. So reading the question, what I mean is on page 55, you just referred to it, the authority had 15 compliance, daily compliance. I think you're on the next report, Tim, on page, sorry, I apologize. We're on page 53 and 54. I understand, I now understand the question. Sorry, I've gone in front of myself. You're in front of us. just being faces red now. Anyone else has any questions or comments? Dilwyn, just a quick question. Somebody who has sat on the, been appointed to sit on it, on the Stands Committee, is there any formal training needed before sitting on the committee, or will this go on anyway? It's quite an informal meeting, in fact, a small group of us. So then we learn as you go on, and any questions I'll be more than willing to answer. The chair and the independent members are also extremely willing to help out with any questions that arise. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dilwyn. Edgar?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm going to propose the recommendation that we accept the report. Is there someone who seconds the proposal? Yes, thank you. So can you show, therefore, in the usual way with the green arrows, if you can press that, or red if you disagree? That has been passed. Fine, thank you. Thank you, Owen. So, for stepping into the gap. Fine. You're welcome. So now to number 14, Annual Governance Statement 2021-22. Who is Bethan? Yes, thank you very much. Yes, so this is the annual governance statement. It's a statutory obligation that we publish this each year. Once it has been approved, it'll be included as part of the content for the annual reports for the year 2021-22. For those of you who are new to the authority, this can be a document that can be very useful to read, since it gives an overview and an introduction. It's a good one. Of all the governance, important governance matters that have happened over the last year. So I'm not going to go into any detail. It's quite a long document, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have or accept any comments. Otherwise, you'll see the recommendation is to approve the annual governance statement. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bethan. Fine. You can see what the recommendation is and what the purpose of this report. I know that Tim has, we're on this one. Tim, you have questions. Yes, I'll ask the question in the right place this time, and apologies. On page 65, you're talking about the 15 complied, and the report on 2 of them. Are there the others? How are the others treated? Was it something that, were they dismissed as compliance that wasn't right? Just to get some idea of, don't need to go into details on them. Yes, some of them were approved as a formal complaint. There's no basis for them, and others, they did have a basis for them, and steps have been taken to resolve matters. I don't have the figures in front of me, I'm afraid, but a full report will go to the Performance and Resources Committee next month with all the details about the complaints, what subjects they were, how we resolved them, and what had happened. So if you're happy to wait till the Performance Committee, you'll have all the details at that time. Yes, certainly. Yes, I'll wait for that. Edgar? I propose the recommendation that we accept the annual statement. Does anybody have another question before I ask for a seconder? No? Fine. So will somebody second the recommendation? Tim, and are you all willing for Emir and I to sign it? Fine, thank you. If you can show in the usual way. with the green arrow.
Hwnna 'di gario, yndi?
That has been carried, hasn't it? That's been carried, yes.
Iawn. Reit,
Fine.
symud ymlaen
Move on.
i'r nesa,
Next
rhaglen
one
corfforaethau.
is the draft corporate work programme for 2022-23. Ewan, you going to lead on this?
Yeah, fi sy'n cymryd hwn.
Yes, I'm taking this. I thought I'd just start with a bit of explanation to the new members, because it can appear to be complicated, perhaps, the new members. So that's to start with. So Appendix 2, in Appendix 2, we start on page 103. This is the well-being statement. It runs from 2021 to 2026, and it's been adopted by the authority for that well-being statement. You'll see the service priorities and the well-being objectives. You see on page 120 of Appendix 2, then the well-being start. That is, we have the resilient environments and resilient communities and resilient ways of working. So these are three well-being objectives, and we report on these. We achieve them by doing our corporate program work. So in the corporate program work itself, that is Appendix 1, you will see the resilient environments and one that matches as what is in the well-being objective itself. So under that, you have a project or venture where these are projects or ventures that we are implementing during the year. And you'll see, for example, 10 on C1 and C2, there are 5 and so on. So we also reporting back on the PIs, which are referred to in Appendix 2, well-being statement. And then finally, we also include the remit letter from the Welsh Government, where we show that we are of the opinion that we are achieving the government's priorities for us for this term. A few of them which haven't been achieved, and we don't prioritize the aspects this year, then we will sometime during the government's term of office. So I'm perfectly willing to open this up. The recommendation is that the members adopt the draft corporate work programme for 2022-23, implement it then the system, then if you're willing to adopt this work programme, is that we will report on how we're going to achieve this work to the Performance and Resources Committee during the Performance and Resources Committee's meetings. I'll open it up. Thank you, Ewan. Does anyone have any comments or want to ask a question about the work programme? No? Tim? Looking at the pieces that we're talking about where we are succeeding, the targeting, the things you measure here, they're not what the auditors have called SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, and measure. Is there a reason why we don't have SMART ones? clearly it's easier to achieve these if we don't have figures in them. But, you know, just strikes me that there's not a lot of smart in the targets. Well, what you're I'm on page 7, where the environment, how do we know that we're delivering? Okay, there are 2 elements of this. So I'll make sure that we are referring to the same element. A lot of these come in to the Eryri, and they are visible and smart in the Cynllun Eryri that we're tying into these. We have been through this process and discussed it with Audit Wales, and they have said that they are willing that we continue. They haven't said fine long term, but they're willing to see how these are achieved. Well, if everyone's happy, I'm happy with that. Thank you, Tim. Is there anybody else with any comment or question? No. Is anybody recommend that we adopt the corporate work programme for the next year? Thank you, Jim. And Edgar seconding. And Brian. Yes. Fine, thank you. Can you show in the usual way, please? This has been passed. Thank you. Thank you very much. Fine, we'll move on. Number 16, Treasury Management Annual Report for 21-22. Sian, you're going to take this, or David? I'll take it to start with. All right, David? Yes, thank you very much, and congratulations to Wynne on being elected as chairman, and Ivor as Conway. So just to introduce myself to those of you, I'm David Edwards, the treasurer, or the chief financial officer of the park for about 20 years as part-time, as well as other duties in Gwynedd councils.
You mentioned Charles earlier. She's done the main body of the work, and she's the author of this report. And Sian is working on the accounts for 2021-22 for the P&A meeting on the 13th of July. It is a statutory requirement for me to report on the movements of the Treasury. And this is what's included between pages 124 and 127 in your documents bundle. For those of you who have been here before, you'll know that the procedure is that you approve the strategy for February, and we report once a year, and then once afterwards, after the activity. This is the report that looks back at the reports for 2021-2022, and the authority approved the relevant strategy back in February 2021. You as an authority have approved the strategy for the year that started back in February of this year. So this report is for information, really. Very briefly, as an authority, we didn't have to borrow, although there's a lot of volatility in the market. The authority's balances are safe and have been kept safe in 2021. There are further details in the paper, but that's really all you need to be assured of. I'm, of course, happy to accept any observations or questions, but ask you to note it for information. Nothing to act from me either. Thank you very much. Thanks, Anwen. Thanks, both of you. Anybody, any questions or comments before we move to the recommendation?
No. Iawn.
If not, can I have a proposal for the recommendation that we note the report for information? Can I have a seconder, please? Thanks, June. Can we have a show of hands? Green button, please, if you agree. Motion carried. Thank you very much, everyone. On to the next one, members' attendance, Ewan. Yes, this report is for information. I've set out, according to the each member, the presence in years 2021, 22, and the number of authority meetings and the main committees, as well as the standards committee. If you look at the message, if you look at paragraph 1.4, it went up a lot during 2021. If you look at the percentages there, but the total of 82% is a little lower in comparison with the previous year, but similar to what it was in the previous 2 years. And the recommendation is that I'm presenting it so that you can discuss it, but it's there for information. Thanks, Ewan. Does anybody want to discuss any elements of this report, or that we accept it for information? Owen? No, I have no specific comments on the report itself. Just wanted to make the new members aware that this was the only way of actually measuring the effectiveness of members that has been in existence in the past. But Welsh Government has now asked us to raise our game, and you'll see in the report on governance that there are several recommendations there relating to raising awareness and providing training for new members. So this will be the last report in this form, probably. Ewan, do you think? And next year's will be more inclusive, do you think? I haven't had any time to consider how next year's report will appear yet, but I will consider that at a later date, yes. Edgar proposed that we accept it. Will anybody second that? Thanks, Brian. Can we just have a show of hands, please? Motion carried, thank you. Okay, moving on. Item 18, Welsh language standards. Bethan? Yes, I'll be presenting this report. This annual report reports on how we've performed as an authority against the standards that are put upon us. It's a statutory requirement for us to publish this by the end of June each year. In the report itself, after the brief presentation, part 2 gives us the executive summary, which gives an overview of the main headings and events during the year. And part 3 gives us more information on the standards themselves. I'm happy to answer any questions or any observations that you may have in relation to the report. Otherwise, the recommendation is to approve the report and permit me to publish the report on the authority's website. Any questions or comments, anyone?
Na. Oes na rywun yn argymell bod yr awdurdod yn cymeradwyo'r adroddiad?
Anybody recommend that we approve the report and give Bethan the authority to publish it on the authority's website? Owen, do you have a question? No, I was a bit confused between the different types of hands. Thank you. Are you making the recommendation? Meryl, are you? You're on mute at the moment, Meryl. Seconding that. And Edgar as well. Seconding. A show of hands, please.
Iawn, mae hwnna di gario yndi.
Motion carried.
Iawn, symud ymlaen.
Moving on.
Y nesa di adroddiad monitro blynyddol.
Cynllun Eryri Annual Monitoring Report, item 19. Angela. Thank you, Chairman. So I'm really glad to be able to present this report, annual report on Cynllun Eryri, which is the partnership management plan from this report includes the period between November, when the plan was formally adopted in 2020, and November 2021. So there's no information about this year as yet, but during that period was really challenging because this is the first time that we are preparing this type of report. The process has been interesting and we've learned a lot over the past few months.